deep down, not many people admit it, but a lot of people enjoy that bit of an adrenaline rush. That's what draws people to the genre. And that can be addictive, you know. You see these people that do these kind of extreme sports and stuff, they do it because they love that feeling of being, oh my God, this is terrifying. My dad is a big fan of all the old Hammer horror stuff and like the Universal monsters, the Swamp Thing and Boris Karloff's Mummy and that kind of stuff. And I guess just through him being interested in that kind of thing, I kind of got into it as well, and we'd watch stuff like that together. I think that's probably where the kind of the horror and the monsters and the spooky side of stuff came from. I would definitely say my dad was a massive influence of that. It's a weird thing to say that scary and spooky stuff is fun, but it is. A lot of them, especially older stuff, is very tongue-in-cheek. And I think I've always been into stuff that most people my age aren't into. So that's difficult as a kid. I tried to fit in and I tried to be into the stuff that my friends were into, and I just never was. As an older teenager, and definitely in my early 20s, I realised there was a heck of a lot of energy being wasted pretending to enjoy stuff I didn't enjoy. So I just kind of went back to base and really threw myself into the stuff that I knew I enjoyed, and you do find your own crowd when you do that. People that are into the horror genre, there's an element of psychology to it. I think they like the fact that it holds up a mirror to some of the darker elements of people's personalities and of society as a whole, and I find that fascinating. I've been a huge fan of Batman since I was a little kid, and when you live somewhere like Heywood that gets a bit of a bad rep sometimes, you know, it's a bit of a disadvantaged area, you can kind of tie those together and feel like Gotham could be Heywood. You know, crime rates were going up, and, you know, you get your kind of Heywood Town Facebook pages, and it seemed like everything on there was just Heywood's this, Heywood's that, and I got really fed up of reading it and hearing about it. And I know that as a town, when we have a big event like the 1940s Day, the community comes out in droves, and it's always a really great experience. So I thought, how can I bring what I love into my hometown to kind of give it a bit of a boost? And that's where the idea for Horrorwood or Heywood HorrorCon came from, because that was something I knew I could do, something I knew I enjoyed, and I was almost certain there were other people out there that would enjoy it as well. And I wanted to put on the kind of event that I would want to go to, with the things that I would want to see and the atmosphere that I would want to feel. And it just kind of went crazy. There was so many people like messaging and sharing it, and I was like, oh, this is actually probably a really good idea. I think the first year we had somewhere around 550, 600 people attend, which is crazy. People in general, whether they choose from it or not, are quite judgmental. I think it's part of human nature, and so it's easier to kind of single people out that are dressed, you know, a little bit unusual or a bit outlandish or whatever. And we wanted to create a space where it didn't matter, and that's what I like about it. It's kind of breaking that barrier. You see someone on the outside and think, they look a bit scary. Like bikers have a bad rep because they look scary, big beards and tattoos and stuff, but usually a great community of people, and that's what I feel like horror fans and the alternative community as a whole. I've never had a bad experience in a room full of people like that. We knew we wanted to provide some sets for Horrorwood. There was absolutely zero budget for that because we've never done anything like this before. I'm creative, not particularly practical. He's practical, not that creative. So let's put these two things together and let's build our own props and sets. And not having a massive budget actually made the props better for me because, you know, we weren't just throwing money at it and buying replicas of stuff. We were finding ways between us to make this look something like what we wanted it to look like. And, you know, we pulled it off. We managed to put a few sets together, and when we look back through the videos and the footage and the photos from the first Horrorwood, and we saw those sets being used and people posing for pictures, I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is something we want to do more of. Eventually, we would like to build enough and have enough of an inventory to then hire them out to other events, and be able to get into, you know, maybe even TV production, theatre production, just somewhere where we can really let that creative juice loose. We're not professional event organisers, we're not prop builders on paper, but we've managed to build props. So if you think you can do it, give it a go. What is the absolute worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is we put Horrorwood on, no one turned up. Oh well. at least we tried. You know, or you can put an event on that no one's ever heard of and 600 people can turn up, and then you can be looking at planning your third year, like we are now. I try and encourage my kids as much as I can to be themselves, and I think that's rooted in the shared love that my dad and I have for the horror genre. The way you choose to express yourself creatively, be it through painting, music, art, acting, whatever it is, we've all got it in us. Some of us don't know it. I think your creative expression is who you want to be and who you would like the world to see you as, and if you don't get an opportunity to express that in some way, it can make for, you know, quite a depressing adulthood, I think. So if you can find a space to be yourself and you're not harming anybody else and you're with like-minded people, then that can only be a good thing. We're seeing a lot more of that, people being allowed to be more expressive and be themselves, and that's important for society as a whole.